We all know such characters. Kind, gracious, always ready with a helping hand, a wise advice, or a sharp reminder to behave if you are not doing it properly. Freedom would not defend itself, you know. But what's the real story? How do they become such benevolent but very dangerous people? Let's take a look at
Pennsylvania.
Many people think that there are only two faces of Pennsylvania. Lounging, sophisticated Philadelphia and brutal, no-nonsense Pittsburgh.
Man, I'm from Pittsburgh. We don't play that shit.
And some weird stuff like that.
You, your girl, and your Johnson.
But there are so much more to this state. You know, how there are usually two types of relatives. One, the somber and organized. Another, the cool guy. He is liberal, open, easygoing, and he usually irritates the hell out of the first one. It's very like the story of Massachusetts and Pennsylvania. Massachusetts was the firstborn, founded by pilgrims. They were not easygoing people. They prayed, worked hard, and prayed once again. Pennsylvania was founded by the kind-hearted rich guy. He built a quite nice infrastructure, based his land on religious tolerance, and was rather nice to Indians.
But if you gave us land in the New World, we could go there and start a new life. We would treat the Indians as brothers and gain their friendship by a kind, just, peaceable communities and build great cities and be free to worship God in our own way.
Basically, Pennsylvania was like that loved kid who has his own pony. Even his name has somewhat whimsical ring to it. Pennswoods. You can't help but imagine a lot of elves and unicorns frolicking in glades. It was a century of tolerance for refugees from all over the world. English, German, Irish, Scots, Jews, French, Huguenots, Mennonites, Amish. All bad boys of the century found the safe haven here, and especially Welsh. It was even Welsh struck here. Long story short, Philadelphia became the first city in the whole America that guaranteed religious freedom, and Quakers in the Germantown section of Philly were the first to protest against slavery in all the colonies. Who is the cradle of liberty now, Boston, huh? And then the father died. The childhood was over. Pennsylvania was introduced to the real world. What happens next? In a minute. And now. We had a somewhat similar land in ancient Russia, Novgorod. It was a place where the first Russian monarchy was started, by Vikings. It was a unique haven of democracy. All important decisions were made by all male citizens. It was called Veche, great trading city, with quite a lot of religious tolerance, and a very educated inhabitants. Then democratic Veche was forbidden by Ivan III, and its bell was taken to Moscow. And then Ivan the Terrible added the injury to the insult. He burned the city, tortured its people, and pulled the tongue from its bell. Poor bells, they always suffer. There were no massacres in Pennsylvania, just not very nice people came to power. Penn's sons were kinda ruthless toward Indians, more land, less love sort of thing. Indians got their chance for revenge in the French and Indian War. Many settlers were slaughtered. They begged the government for help, and funny thing, the governor actually wanted to help, but the assembly, with him in leadership, refused, until the governor agreed to tax more lands. More taxes, less lives. That's the ticket. But Ben wasn't all that bad. He was a ruthless but effective politician. Under his iron hand, Pennsylvania had a lot of things unprecedented in America. The first university, the first public library, the first volunteer fire department, the first science organization, the first hospital. By the start of American Revolution, Philadelphia was the largest city in the North America. It was the heart circulating the blood of the USA, like the sun well, the source of elvish power. So, he wasn't dismayed by harsh realities. He inherited the strong sense of freedom from his father and was brought up and tutored by the finest politicians of the time. It was his time to shine. Pennsylvania was first who told British to quit jogging around the whole year before the Declaration of Independence, mind you. Hanno's resolve in the Hannostown. Brave citizens gathered in the tavern and decided enough is enough. They swore to each other to fight with British tyrants to death. British was so appalled that they burned the whole town to the ground.
I say.
After this rehearsing, he started to kick ass at full speed. In politics, he hosted the adoption of the Declaration of Independence. Yeah, that minor document. In fighting, crossing of the Delaware River. Maybe you've heard about it. Including some nature elvish magic. The Battle of the Clouds, when British significantly outnumbered Washington. They were ready to strike. The Great Rain started. It turned the battlefield to mud so thoroughly that the British couldn't do anything. In law, Pennsylvania was the first state to abolish slavery, and as a triumphant result, Philadelphia became the capital of the USA, until Pennsylvania decided to tell the USA to quit jogging around. Some soldiers demanded their payment. Congress ignored them. Big surprise. Soldiers mutinied. Congress fled in terror. And it was a primary reason to create District of Columbia, where congressmen could defend themselves. So, freedom, independence, war victories. Was it enough? Not even close. His fiery sense of freedom could burn the sun itself. Pennsylvania drew a line between the elvish land of the free and the other land of the slavery. And when some people decided to mess with that line, they were taught a little lesson at Gettysburg. And after that little lesson was a little speech that inspired the country for centuries.
And the lesson is that these dead shall not have died in vain. That this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom. And that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
No wonder that Pennsylvanians got the most medals of honor in the country during the Second World War. But the state was famous not only for blood of his enemies, also for black blood of the earth. Not Texas, not California. The oil industry of the USA was born here.
I drink your milkshake.
But he isn't only a brutal fighter and a ruthless tycoon, he's also extremely caring. For example, the polio vaccine was created for children of Pittsburgh and very civilized. Infrastructure in Pennsylvania was always excellent. Even its prisons had indoor plumbing before the White House. Andrew Jackson had a worse house than these people. But no matter the century, the state just couldn't stop to tell people to quit jogging around. The great example of it, Nellie Bly. She proved to all world that women can be beautiful and tough. She was a great threat to powerful people, an investigative journalist. She challenged the Mexican president himself, and then she raised the stakes even higher. Nellie stepped into the hell, women's lunatic asylum on Blackwell's Island. Disguised as a patient, she spent 10 days there. 10 hellish days. She wrote a book about it. Check it out. And after all that, she challenged a fictional character, Phileas Fogg. You know, that chap who circumnavigated the world in 80 days. She made it in 72, being a woman, in the 19th century. Yep, like a true elf. Now you probably think, elves? Again? What the hell he's talking about? I'm dead serious. There is too much evidence. The name, the freedom-loving and tree-hugging spirit, the tremendous fighting prowess. Still don't believe me? Look. What do you associate with Elvish land? Nature, right? Ancient stuff, correct? Some magical animals, maybe? Everybody is happy? And of course, a lot of art. First of all, nature. Kennett Square is the mushroom capital of the world. Indiana County, the Christmas tree capital of the world. The largest landscaped garden in the world. And of course, a field with singing stones in Upper Black Eddy. Then, ancient stuff. The oldest known set of habitation in North America. The oldest surviving photograph in the USA. And the oldest gas station in the USA.
I'm thinking this thing doesn't take credit cards.
Also happiness. The smiley face was invented in Pittsburgh. Hard to believe, I know. Even somber Amish are jollier here. Pennsylvania is the chocolate capital of the USA. Art? There are more than 3,800 murals in Philadelphia alone. The first modern art museum in the world. The oldest operating theater in an English-speaking country. And, God forgive me, the country's oldest folk parade. Also, the father of American music himself.
Stephen Stinkin' Foster.
Magical animals? Well, you know.
Punxsutawney Phil, the world's most famous weatherman, the groundhog, who, as legend has it, can predict the coming of an early spring.
And I think you'll agree that this, and I won't even talk about this, are looking rather magical. Even official buildings are like cathedrals here. So yeah, this state is pretty amazing. And it doesn't matter that he's only 38 in the overall ranking. He knows.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
And there you have it. Kick-ass fearless fighter and a gracious host with the strongest sense of liberty. He created the land of true religious freedom, gathered allies to fight a foreign oppressor, and was never shy to tell those allies to quit jogging around when they crossed the line. He also created all of this stuff, and Big Mac in particular. But hey, each of us has guilty pleasures. He's flying a bit under a radar now, caught between lights of New York and DC. But it's very unwise to ignore him. After all, he is the land where the first computer was born, and he can very much surprise you yet. Thanks for watching. Next one, Florida. A grossly underestimated state, and very much not only sunshine and rainbows. We plan to cover all US states in the nearest year. If you're interested in this journey, please subscribe. See you next week.